Ferrari have had a torrid time this season, with one of their worst starts to a season in 14 years. The Scuderia can only really go up from here, and it looks, after their recent reveal, the team's terrible start may be about to improve. Aston Martin, on the other hand, have had a dream start to the season with a Silverstone-based team flying. It seems like almost nothing can go wrong for them. A hat-trick of podium finishes has propelled the team up the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship, with Fernando Alonso bouncing around the paddock and, dare we say it, looking 10 years younger compared to the Fernando of last season. The season has been going so great that they even managed to challenge an FIA penalty and win their appeal, a pretty rare fact, in particular after Mercedes and Red Bull spat in 2021, where both teams appealed to the FIA to have specific decisions overturned for them to just be rejected. I guess when it's going your way, the luck just keeps rolling on. Well, not quite, as Ferrari, as we all know, are not scared to make sure that their voice is heard, in particular about the rules, as we all know that Ferrari can't help bringing up their ability to veto decisions. Now that they have the chance to do that here, but they do have the chance at another route that may rile up Aston Martin fans. After a third and fourth in Melbourne, as well as sitting third in the Drivers' Championship and second in the Constructors, you would think that Lawrence Stroll would be happy the team is by all degrees smashing it. But if you're a billionaire, nothing is ever good enough, and the Aston Martin owner is demanding more from the team, according to Mike Crack. The mission is very clear, said Crack after a very healthy 27-point haul in Melbourne last weekend. Stroll has not been having any delay in telling us, when are we going to win the next one? Obviously, he's happy we've made a step, but this is not enough for his ambitions. The good thing is with Lawrence is you know where you stand. He wants more, and we will have to deliver more. Yeah, pretty crazy, but Stroll didn't become a billionaire by not being ambitious, so can you really blame him? The man will push the teams to the brink. And with the new facility being built and the first part to be completed in May 2023, the sky is the limit for Aston Martin at this point. The team has even had time to take a dig at its rival after Red Bull was very quick to call out the design of the Aston Martin for being very similar to the RB19. No more 3 Red Bulls on the podium if Checo was here, Alonso remarked. A bit tongue-in-cheek from the Spaniard, who is clearly loving life at the moment, but I think the fans are still aware of Fernando Alonso's reputation, and possibly when we may be seeing it again, with many well aware the Spaniard can be a bit of a diva on and off the track. We are all probably a bit bored of hearing about the Australian Grand Prix and how the FIA valued entertainment over the rules, with the fans and drivers alike just wanting some clarity. And one of the main incidents that the drivers, and in particular Carlos Sainz, is what happened after the final restart, with the Spaniard being nailed with a 5-second penalty after making contact with Fernando at turn 1 after the restart. This demoted the Spaniard down to P12, with Stroll gaining a position as a result of the punishment. And if that wasn't enough, they also gave him 2 points against his license. Such was the nature of the penalty that even Alonso felt sorry for his fellow countryman. On the contact with Carlos Sainz after the restart, I'm sure he didn't mean to do it, so I think the penalty for him was quite harsh in the end. We have to be pleased with this start to the season and 3 podiums in as many races, said Alonso. Carlos was clearly distraught, with the Spaniard feeling that he was harshly treated. Sainz moaned over team radio, "They need to wait until the race is finished and discuss with me. No, please ask them, please to wait and discuss with me. Clearly the penalty is not deserved, it's too severe." And it looked like after the race that this had gone all quiet and that the race results would stand, but as we said, Ferrari couldn't help themselves, with the prancing horse going to use all its power to get the 5-second penalty reversed. There is a running joke in F1 circles that the FIA is just Ferrari in disguise, with many calling them the Ferrari Internacional de l'Automobile. I mean, this is probably not the case, but Ferrari certainly do seem to have the older brother role in F1, with the team still having the right to veto a decision. Now, this was agreed by the other teams in the Concord Agreement, but let's be honest, in what other sport does a team have such power? None, really. With that being said, Ferrari has submitted a right to review to the FIA for Carlos Sainz's 5-second time penalty, which demoted the Spaniard from 4th to 12th at the end of the Australian Grand Prix. we did the petition for review of the case that we're sending to the FIA, team principal Frederick Vasseur confirmed to media. Now you're probably thinking, how on earth is this possible that a couple of days after the race could a team appeal a result? Well, welcome to F1, because under the FIA International Sporting Code, F1 teams have the right to review any penalty within 14 days after the race. During the review, a team must bring a significant and relevant new element that was unavailable to the parties seeking the review at the time of the decision concerned. Yeah, it's all rather odd, and the big question will be, can Ferrari provide that extra or new evidence needed to overturn the original decision? And I'm sure they will be looking to earlier in the season when Aston Martin managed to do it as inspiration. Back then, the British team provided multiple images of pit stops where a penalty was served while making contact with the car with the jack. As the stewards had ruled that Aston Martin had committed an error and that this had been clearly agreed between the teams, it became clear from that new footage that this was not the case. Thus, the penalty was reversed and Fernando Alonso regained his P3 in Saudi Arabia. And Ferrari must have some secret information up their sleeves, but at the moment Vasseur is not giving much away. But the main crux of Ferrari's appeal seems to lie around why Sargent and De Vries were not penalized for causing accidents at the same point as Sainz. I don't want to disclose any details of this discussion, said Vasseur when asked what significant new elements they would bring. The only thing is that Gasly and Ocon, we also had Sargent and De Vries at turn 1. The reaction from the stewards was not the same as Sainz. In their official review document, the stewards believed there was enough of a gap for Sainz to avoid the collision with Alonso. If this were the case, the two biggest losers would be Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll, with the Japanese driver moving from P10 to P11 and out of the points. He would also equal the record for the record amount of consecutive finishes in the same position outside of pole position. A pretty unwanted record, but interesting nonetheless. Stroll would slip into 5th position, now not the worst place to be, but with Mercedes having a mini rival and the team finding a bit of form, all points will be vital for Aston Martin, and let's be honest, if Mercedes had kept both cars on the track, the Constructors' Championship would be a lot closer. So could the FIA really reverse the decision? Well, according to Sainz, his biggest peeve was that race management didn't listen to him. Whereas Gasly's penalty was only announced after the race, Sainz was immediately given a penalty around his ears. As a result, the Spaniard was unable to tell his story to race control, and Vasseur hopes that the team can sit down with the FIA. What we can expect is to at least have an open discussion with them, also for the good of the sport, to avoid to have this kind of decision when you have 3 cases at the same corner and not the same decision, the Frenchman concluded. Whether Ferrari's appeal is successful or not, they're clearly not happy about the outcome of the race. And if they do really have the FIA in their pocket, then now may be the time to use it. But we highly doubt that the FIA will overturn this one, but who are we to know? Only time will tell. One thing that is certain is there will be a new format at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix for the sprint races. For once, I think all the teams were aligned. It's not very often that it's the case, so we have to jump on it, said Vasseur. For sure, the format is more dynamic and you can discuss about doing it so late, but at the end of the day, I think if we're all aligned, then we have to push for it. F1 teams have agreed to a new idea of F1, according to Vasseur, reports Reuters. One practice session will be held on Friday before qualifying for Sunday's race. A second free practice session was normally held on Saturday, but Parc Fermé caused teams to make little or no use of this session. Therefore, a separate qualifying session will now be held here before the sprint race later on Saturday.